Just when she thought they could finally enjoy a nice meal at a restaurant, her young daughter threw a tantrum and embarrassed her in front of everyone. But what should have been a simple request for a takeaway box ended up becoming a viral post on Facebook. How could they say no to a struggling single mother? Courtney Pedigo didn't know what to do. On the one hand, she felt that she and her family deserved a night off, but on the other hand, she feared how her young daughter would behave. Instead of being pessimistic, she decided to go to Olive Garden for the night, but she never imagined that the restaurant would treat her and her daughter like this. Motherhood had always been in Courtney's plans. He had always adored his nieces, nephews, and little cousins. But the best thing about babies was giving them back to their mothers when they started a tantrum. She loved them, but she was not yet willing to give up her freedom. Then, the unexpected happened. Harlan was born weighing 2.5 kilos. From the moment Courtney saw her little girl, she knew she was destined to be a mother. He knew that, whatever his life put in front of him, he would do well. He didn't need a Prince Charming. All she needed was her daughter. The first months were harder than expected. Courtney would get nervous when she lost sight of Harlan. But as time went on, he began to realize that he needed to spend time with the other people in his life. When Courtney arrived at the restaurant in Greensboro, a town in North Carolina, with her father, stepmother, and some friends of her parents, 18-month-old Harlan was already very restless. But didn't Courtney deserve to lead a normal life without fear of her daughter making a scene? Bravely, she entered the restaurant and was greeted by a waitress, who was already busy serving other diners. He did not expect that his quiet night would end with so much uproar. And he definitely didn't think he would have a run-in with an employee. As soon as Harlan was seated in her high chair, the screaming began. The other diners made annoyed gestures as they tried to finish their starters, while the girl's tantrum made Courtney blush. He didn't want to sit down. Courtney was ready to give up and go home. The long-suffering mom approached a waitress to ask her to wrap the takeout, but it was difficult with a full restaurant vying for her attention. Finally, Courtney was able to make eye contact with the busy waitress and asked her to wrap the takeout for her, because she understood that Harlan was ruining the other's evening. But what seemed like a simple request for them to leave quickly was met with an answer Courtney didn't expect. How could I say that to her? "No," the waitress said, flatly denying the stressed mother the food she had paid for. Courtney understood that the restaurant was full and that it might take a while to serve her. But to be told no like that at such a popular restaurant chain was a real shock. "You're going to sit down and enjoy your dinner," the waitress added. Courtney had thought that, at the very least, the family could eat together in the car, and if Harlan continued to behave as he had been, at least they wouldn't disturb the other diners. But without food, they would go hungry. It couldn't be much of a hassle for the waitress to quickly pack the food for her. Courtney sat down at the table again. He was aware that by bringing a screaming girl into a crowded restaurant, he had made the evening a little less enjoyable for the other diners. But surely he was entitled to a few boxes to take the food home. Maybe I should talk to the manager, but did I really want to stay longer in the restaurant? At that moment, Harlan began to tap the table with his heels. Courtney knew something terrible was about to happen. His face flushed with mortification as the other diners began to complain. She was all too aware that all eyes were fixed on the show her daughter was giving. But now he was getting angry too. It wasn't the first time he'd endured terrible service for having an unruly daughter. But this was too much. But before I could decide what to do next, the waitress finally approached the table. Courtney thought she might have changed her mind and had gone to the table to pick up their plates and bring them food. But the waitress again denied them a to-go box so they could soothe the baby. And the exhausted mother was beginning to be dangerously fed up with being treated so rudely. Without batting an eyelid, Niani Rudder, 24, reaffirmed, "You're going to sit down and enjoy your dinner." Courtney opened her eyes in disbelief. Did the waitress refuse to help her? This was completely unacceptable. With Harlan's squeals scratching his nerves, he opened his mouth to tell the waitress what he thought. But the waitress just left. Courtney was puzzled. What was wrong with him? Had he done anything wrong? Did that waitress have anything against her? Did you know it? All these questions were piling up in his mind. I didn't even know what to do now. Should I leave the restaurant? Talk to another waitress? And suddenly, the waitress who had refused to help Courtney came back. She had something with her, but it wasn't a bag. It was the food he had ordered and an ice cream. But Courtney was still confused. Why had he refused to give her the to-go bag? The waitress would have time to clarify her reasons to the single mother. He served him food and sat at his table. It turned out that the two women had a lot more in common than you might think, and they had a lot to talk about. You're going to go sit down and enjoy your dinner, and I'll be there to sit with her, Niani said to the exhausted mother. Courtney was speechless. If Harlan wouldn't sit down, even if her mother asked her to, she was hardly going to do so for a complete stranger. Courtney wanted to get out of there as soon as possible. She was tired of people staring at her and whispering, but Harlan was delighted. I was sitting laughing with Niani. Courtney couldn't believe what she was seeing. It seemed that little Harlan and the waitress had been friends all along. Courtney was amazed at how easily she had been calmed by the waitress's presence. Courtney was glad she didn't have to go to her car to eat. But he still wondered what could be the reason for the waitress's generous gesture. The answer to this question was simpler than one might think. The 22-year-old waitress could tell that Harlan wasn't feeling too well, and Courtney was quite stressed. She felt sorry for the single mother's situation, as she was too. The two women spent some time talking about the difficulties of motherhood, but also about their joys. Courtney and Niani discussed the challenges single mothers face when raising their children alone. Niani told Courtney that she herself was raised by a single mother, and her father had not been a part of her life. And unfortunately, his mother had passed away only 2 years earlier.
Also, if you have not done so already, please subscribe to our channel and click that notification bell to get inspired by these real-life stories every day. Now, back to the story.
I'm just a college student with no parents trying to make ends meet, Niani said. It was great to have time to sit down and talk to Courtney. Niani also told Courtney that she had been working at Olive Garden for about 2 years. She had to get a steady job after her mother died of cancer. Although she does all the shifts she can, she is also studying at Durhan Technical Community College and is studying for a college degree. He aspires to become an anesthesiologist. Courtney told Niani that she had also worked as a waitress, so she understood how difficult it must have been for the waitress to take the time to help her out. After chatting and entertaining Harlan until Courtney had finished her meal, Niani finally left the table to go and get the check. When she came back, the two women embraced each other wholeheartedly. But after Courtney left, Niani noticed that she had something in her apron's pocket. She had taken her apron off to sit down with Courtney and Harlan, and it had stayed there while she went for the check. And aside from the meal's price on the table, Courtney had left a $50 note in Niani's pocket as a tip. Niani's gesture meant a lot to Courtney, and she wanted to show her appreciation somehow within her limited means. This story is a prime example of solidarity and how each of us can do something to make others' lives better. That's why Courtney had to share it. "I actually got to eat my food while it was still hot," exclaimed Courtney in a now viral Facebook post. And that's not all she had to say. "Niani is just an awesome person," Courtney said. I was just in complete shock because nothing had ever happened to me like that. I just wanted to shine some light on the person she is. How could someone who is already under so much stress from rush hour take the time to sit with her baby girl? Niani is no stranger to the mood swings of young children. Her niece has just graduated from the terrible twos and has now been accepted into the terrifying threes. She knows how irritable children can get when they're hungry, tired, grumpy, sad, happy, afraid, or confused. Her shift was nearly over anyway, and there was plenty of other staff on to help bustle tables. But what would her manager think of her taking a break? Apparently, Niani's managers are more than understanding. "My managers are great," Niani explained. "Our motto at Olive Garden is, 'When you're here, you're family.' If that's all I had to do was sit down and take a couple of moments to help this young lady with her baby, I'd do it every day if I could." And Niani's efforts haven't gone unnoticed. Courtney was so touched by Niani's gesture that she dedicated a Facebook post to the server and her kindness, accompanied by a sweet photo of Rudder feeding Harlan ice cream. And after outlining the incident, Courtney went on to give Niani considerable praise for her actions. Courtney's post on Facebook has gained thousands of likes and comments. The online community has raved about Niani's kind gesture. Mothers, sisters, and aunts have shared their appreciation for understanding a mother's plight. But was everyone in the restaurant that night as understanding? "Girl, you will never truly know how appreciative I am for tonight," gushed Courtney of her experience. "I seriously admire you. Not only because you took the time to bribe my bratty little human with sweets so I could eat, but because you are so strong." But as far as Niani is concerned, she was just doing her job. Niani, who has a 3-year-old niece, understood what Courtney was going through and felt like she deserved to stay where she was. She knew raising a child wasn't easy, especially when there was no father in the picture. She knew this because her own mom had raised her all alone. She understood exactly what the stranger was going through. The old adage, "It takes a village to raise a child," is one that still rings true, even if we've moved away from that concept in modern society. Single moms, in particular, need all the help they can get. Next time you see a mom struggling with her child, instead of getting annoyed, see if you can help out. Niani's help meant the world to Courtney.